بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم إني أعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن نفس لا تشبع ومن دعوة لا يستجاب لها آمين يا رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today we are going to continue our session 6, module 5. We have been discussing the Umayyad dynasty, Umayyad Caliphate in this module. And Alhamdulillah, we have completed most of it, and today we will end it. So after today, we'll discuss about the caliphate in Spain, and then further down we will talk about the Abbasid Caliphate. But today we will continue Umayyad Caliphate. And last time we did Hazrat Umar bin Abdul Aziz. It was one of the golden period of Umayyad Caliphate. He only ruled for 2.5 years, but his era was very remarkable. If it was compared to the era of Khulafa Rashidun, the era of Abu Bakr Siddiq, Umar Farooq, Usman Ghani, and Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. So, but right after that, if you remember, right after Amir Muawiyah, things went bad, and the caliphs or the rulers of Umayyad Empire were not as good, and they started just using the wealth and the power within their government to fulfill their own personal needs rather than taking care of the people. So this all went away when Umar bin Abdul Aziz came, but then we see that right after him, let me bring up the yeah. So when the eighth caliph was Umar bin Abdul Aziz that we studied last time, but then the ninth one is Yazid. So right after Muawiyah's era was good, but then Yazid and his son Muawiyah too, and then Marwan and all these, they made a lot of progress as far as territorial gain in the Arab Empire, and also they did a lot of constructions, a lot of growth. Yeah, they conquered Spain during this time. They conquered a lot of places, a lot of eastern and western and northern areas. But as far as taking care of their own people, they were wealthy, so they were able to take care of them financially. But there was no rules as far as if you belong to the royal family, then everything is for you. And people who did not belong to the royal family, they did not have much to live with. So these all changed when Hazrat Umar bin Abdul Aziz came, and he brought justice back. His era of 2.5 years was great. Uh, but then after that, when he passed away, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, then Yazid too became the caliph. So Yazid, Khilafat Yazid bin Muawiyah, of course, his, you know, um, let's see, right. So Khilafat Yazid, Khilafat Muawiyah bin Yazid. Yeah, this is what we have already talked about. Then we talked about Marwan. Then we talked about Abdul Malik bin Marwan, Abdul Malik bin Marwan right here. Then we talked about Abdul Malik, and then Sulaiman. Sulaiman was the seventh caliph, and then we talked about Omar bin Abdul Aziz, which he ruled only for 2.5 years. So today we will continue with Yazid bin Abdul Malik. So uh, just a second. So Yazid bin Abdul Malik. This is what we're going to study today. So Yazid bin Abdul Malik was, of course, son of Abdul Malik. He tried to continue the reforms that Omar bin Abdul Aziz brought, and he felt that there was a need, and he should continue the reforms that Umar bin Abdul Aziz brought, but could not do it, and only maybe sustained it for like 40 days, and then everything had to go back because a lot of people who felt deprived looting the government and getting the money from the treasury for their own needs and not for the general public. So he could not maintain those for more than like couple of months. Then he abolished all his reforms. So he abolished Umar bin Abdul Aziz's reforms and he brought everything back to the way they used to be. He dismissed people who were appointed to key positions during Umar bin Abdul Aziz's life because Umar bin Abdul Aziz brought many reforms and appointed many people who were able to bring not only the Islamic values into the system, but also justice was brought. And of course, when you have justice, then everyone is seen with the same eye. So this is what he did. Now, the governor of Khorasan was Yazid bin Muhallab. So during the time of Sulaiman, when Umar bin Abdul Aziz became caliph, Yazid bin Muhallab refused to pay part of state's income to Baitul Mal. So this was another issue that financially many people refused to pay zakat, and they were not able to contribute to Baitul Mal, even though they were very wealthy people. Uh, so Yazid bin Abdul Malik, he arrested him and asked him to do that, but he ran away from prison and created his own army and declared his own rule in Iran and neighboring areas. So remember that these were the reasons many people not only were against the government, they started becoming against Umayyad Caliphate, but they also started going to the eastern side where Iran, Persia, and Central Asia was, and then they started getting their own people together to someday somehow fight against Umayyad Caliphate. Finally, Yazid bin Abdul Malik sent his commanders, and Yazid bin Muhallab died fighting. Right after that event, some Turks entered into Muslim Empire. Remember, Turks are originally from the cross section of uh, Russia, Afghanistan, and China. So they started moving because of their because they were nomadic people, so they had to find places where where their animals can graze and they could live a better life, especially close to water. So they moved towards Caspian Sea and they started entering into the Muslim empire. But after some resistance, they were defeated and went back to their area. So this is where they tried, but they went back. But we will see in history that how they all came back and in many different forms, and many of them accepted Islam. And then the Ottoman Empire was created because of those people. Then Muslim forces advanced towards Turkish borders and conquered Dulsa and Konya. These are the existing Turkey. If you have seen some of the history videos, you will see that Konya became one of the major city for Muslims to conquer rest of the areas around it. There was another rebellion by Khawarij. If you remember when we talked about the reign of Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and who fought with finally in Battle of Naharwan, he fought with Khawarij and killed most of them, but some of them were still alive and they scattered around the Arabian Peninsula. But this was also rebellion was not as significant, so they went back in hiding because that's where they were doing. And some reports say that they still exist somewhere in the world and they're in hiding. And whenever they can, they come out and they create havoc in the Muslim communities. Yazid bin Abdul Malik had already nominated his successor. So what he did is he nominated his brother Hisham and then his son Walid as successors of his caliphate. No significant conquest and developments happened in this time, except that he established a good government system in Iraq. Okay, now the second one that he nominated was Hisham bin Abdul Malik. So this was Yazid II bin Abdul Malik. Now he nominated Hisham bin Abdul Malik. And then we will see that the later people will come like Al Walid, who was also Yazid's son. So he nominated as a crown prince his brother, but then as a second person, he nominated his son Al Walid II, that we will see in history. So Hisham was known for being educated, knowledgeable, and wise like the Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and being politically aware and aggressive like Abdul Malik. So he had both qualities. He was very wise and knowledgeable because Hazrat Amir Muawiyah was a Sahabi, And then Abdul Malik was someone who really brought many reforms, many changes to the Islamic empire as far as construction and bringing wealth to the Muslim empire and so on. So he bared both qualities. His rule was for almost 20 years. So some of his achievements are as follows: rehabilitated new lands. So he, because they had conquered many lands, but they were not set up to be lived on. So he did that. He brought Baitul Mal reforms back like Umar bin Abdul Aziz. So there were many reforms that Umar bin Abdul Aziz did as far as the treasury is concerned, this Muslim treasury, which was called Baitul Mal. He reorganized government offices and affairs, and he enhanced justice system. So his era is seen to be one of the good ones, where he tried to maintain some of the good stuff. But of course, this was not even close to be the time of Hazrat Umar bin Abdul Aziz. So so his era is considered to be, and then his achieved some of the other achievements were progress in military construction of forts, created water reservoirs on the way towards Makkah. He established industry of resham clothing, the silk, took religious affairs very seriously and killed those who rebelled against Islam. So he was very much into making sure that the Islamic way of life continues. He was fond of horses. He raised quality horses and took care of them. He was calm and never spent lavishly. He requested Imam Zahari to compile book of 400 hadiths. So he also was a religious person, so he made sure that some of the academic work or the scholarly work was done. And after Quran, the most authentic, the authentic collection is a collection of hadith. So he made sure that Imam Zahri, he is one of the very renowned scholar, to compile a book of 400 hadiths. Then came Al Walid ibn Yazid. So Al Walid ibn Yazid is the 11th caliph. He was son of Yazid, and then he ruled for for only 1.5 years. He's known for his carelessness and deviation from Islam. So whatever Hisham did, he kind of undid that. And this is the dilemma of Muslim nations and Muslim empires, that even if one ruler uh, becomes popular and does very good things, but then the other ruler comes in and he pretty much undid all those things. He did not deserve to be a ruler, so he did not have any qualities to be a ruler, but he was nominated for it, so he became caliph. His father really tried hard to train him and bring him out of his condition. So he was careless. He was, but his father, as a father, he wanted his son to succeed, and he wanted his son to do the right things. But he never listened to his father. So his father sent him to Hajj as Amir. He made him Amir, so maybe he will have some responsibilities, and because of those responsibilities, he can come back and govern in a just way. But it was all in vain. Later, his father even stopped his salary, but again, it was all in vain and it did not work. So in 1.5 year, the people really started disliking him, and finally Yazid, his cousin, fought against him, and Walid was killed. So his cousin, basically killed him because he thought that he was not good enough for the government. It is said that when he was confined in his home and Yazid's forces entered his house to kill him, he opened Quran and started reciting it, and said that Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu was also got martyred when he was reciting Quran, so I will also die like that, like a shaheed. But Allahu alam, of course, these are the history events that we find out, but Allah knows the hearts of everyone. Then came Yazid III ibn al-Walid. Remember that they all used to have their fathers or their grandfathers or other uncles' names. So this is why you see so many Walids and so many Yazids and so many, Marwan and all that. So now who came after al-Walid II was Yazid III. Yazid III was son of al-Walid, al-Walid I. Remember, after Hisham, after Yazid II, Hisham came, and after Hisham, then Al Walid II came. But then after that, the Yazid III of Al Walid I, who was son of Abdul Malik. So they all started ruling the way the government was set up, not nothing major. But he only ruled for 6 months. Even though Yazid III was pious and good person, but since he was involved in killing his predecessors, Walid, many people rebelled against him. So there were animosity. There were uh, people who did not like each other. So the way Umar bin Abdul Aziz ruled during the Umayyad dynasty, it was very different. So the rest of the things are kind of even the person is good, but still the trends continued. So then there was a rebellion in Homs, Syria, and Yazid had to take care of it. Then there was rebellion in Palestine and Jordan, because remember the Roman empires are still trying to engage with the Muslim empire so that they can take some of the territories back that Muslims had conquered. Then his uncle Marwan bin Muhammad bin Marwan rebelled against him and captured some areas, but later Yazid made peace with him and got his allegiance. So this is all happening within Muslims, within the royal family, within the cousins, within the brothers, within the father and son. This is all happening. There was also rebellion in Egypt and Yemen. Egypt is part of North Africa and Yemen is part of Arabian Peninsula. And there were a lot of Sahaba lived there. There are a lot of, they're both happening places, but the rebellion that started from there did not grow and died down. He ruled for only 6 months and then he died. He was 64 years old at the time of his death. So now comes Ibrahim ibn al-Walid. Ibrahim ibn al-Walid is again the second son of al-Walid, brother of Yazid too. You guys don't have to remember all these names, but at least the basic concept should be there that this is all Umayyad Empire. And then that's what we're going to see. And there are some very interesting times that will happen right after Umayyad Empire, and that's where you have to connect the dots. Otherwise, you will miss part of very important history of Islam. So Ibrahim Bin Walid, he only ruled for 2 months. Walid nominated his brother Ibrahim, but he was not really, he did not accept, he was not accepted as a ruler, and his era ended in just 2 months. Ibrahim was neither strong nor a politician. So both he was lacking both parts, just the way his predecessors. One of them had knowledge and strength of Amir Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and then he also had the political values of al-Walid. But this particular person, Ibrahim ibn al-Walid, he lacked both of those qualities. So Marwan bin Muhammad was already against his brother, and he continued his animosity against Ibrahim. Marwan took over and Ibrahim ran away. So this is what's happening now. Marwan ibn Muhammad came to power. He ruled for 5 years. So who is Marwan ibn Muhammad? Marwan II ibn Muhammad is basically Marwan's son Muhammad, who never became caliph, but then his son Marwan II became the last caliph of Umayyad Empire. So they were like all these are marked. So there are 14 caliphs who ruled during Umayyad Empire, which was around 89 years era. So Marwan too became caliph and ruled for 5 years, but at this point, the condition of Umayyad dynasty was very weak. Many rebellions movement had already started, as we talked about in Egypt, in Yemen, some of them within Syria, some of them in the Central Asia and they part of Iran because they were rebelling. And there was a dispute within Umayyad family and kept getting worse. So there were external threats, but at the same time there were some internal threats because they started fighting with each other. So within Umayyad family there was a feud. First major rebellion started in Syria, then Yemen and Egypt. Now it seems like all these countries, all these areas, all these nations are waking up against the Umayyad Empire. But by this time, many Abbasid leaders had emerged. So the next Islamic empire is going to be Abbasid Caliphate, and they had already started raising their heads, and they were getting support from the Persian areas and the Central Asia. And this was even though there were still Arabs, but they got a lot of help from non-Arabs, because in Umayyad Caliphate things were very strict as far as Arabic language is concerned or Arabic culture is concerned. So they saw the difference between Arab and Ajam, people who were not Arab. So this was a feud that started getting bigger and bigger, and finally, Abbasid government or Abbasid leaders took advantage of it, and we'll see that how all this happened. Abbasi influence kept increasing and Umayyad dynasty was rapidly declining. After many battles and rebellions, Marwan ran to west and reached Egypt. So now the caliph, he had to run away because Abbasid leadership had come, and so he reached to Egypt. But Abbasi leaders followed him and killed him. So Abbasid were really after Ottoman leaders, and we will see that how they killed the entire family of Umayyah and except one person. And this is the person who will then go to Spain and would rule there would start a caliphate there, and then that would go on for hundreds of years. So Marwan ibn Muhammad was 62 years of age when he was killed. Now, uh, so this is the chart. This is the chart I really want you to understand because the Umayyad Empire, we have already talked about all these rulers, the 14 rulers. But then look at this. So Umayyad family, and then Abul As, and then Hakam, Marwan, and the Marwan, Abdul Malik. And then Abdul Malik's son was Hisham, Hisham's son was Muawiyah, and then his son was Abdul Rahman. So when the Umayyad Empire ended, and we know that it ended by the Marwan second. But when it ended, so the Abbasid Caliphate, Abbasid people had pretty much taken over. They started killing everyone, every family member, anyone who belonged to the royal family of Umayyah, Abbasid family, killed them. But somehow one person, he was a prince, of course, but he ran away. He ran away with his brother, and then we will talk about it in the next class, that how he ran away and how he went to Spain, and then he started his own government. And that is the most interesting part of the era between Umayyad and Abbasid Caliphate. And this is the basically a connection, because if you don't understand this connection, then you won't be able to understand the start of Andalusia, the Caliphate of Andalusia, which is Spain, and how Muslim grew there. And then we will see that they will also see another a golden age during that time. So the Caliphate of Andalus or Cordoba basically is something that compares themselves with the Abbasid Caliphate, even though they were Abbasid Caliphate here in Syria and Iraq and the rest of the Arabian Peninsula. But this Abdurrahman II, when he went to Spain, he continued. Basically, it was very far away from the Umayyad Empire original place, but he ruled in Spain for almost 200, almost 700 to 800 years. They all ruled, but just his family ruled for almost 200 years. So, and then again, like I said, so this is the connection that connects him from the Umayyad current empire and going back to Andalus. Uh, Today we didn't have very many people, but Alhamdulillah, at least we discussed the end of Umayyad Empire. We can discuss more during our question answer session and the discussion session. If any of you have missed anything, please you can ask me, and I can go back and bring some of those slides again. So we'll end the class today right here. But inshallah, please, all of you, please stay for the question answer and discussion session. جزاك الله خيرا for attending. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.